Final hour overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We are chugging towards puck drop tonight. Game 3, South Florida, Leafs Panthers, right here on TSN Radio. Again, puck drop with Joe Bow and Jimmy Ralph just after 7 o'clock. Bill Lindsay's coming up from the rink in just a few moments. Dear Hayesy-B later in the hour. Best Bets coming up. I am Jack for the game tonight, man. You can sense it in the city. It's such a great, unique feeling when the Leafs are in the playoffs and they're playing well and people are starting to feel confident. I'm sure you're experiencing this, Noodles, and I'm sure it's foreign to you because you've never experienced it in the past.
I mean, I've been here 14 years. So the longest I went, 2012, it seemed like it was May, it was early May when
that was in 13 against the Bruins.
Sorry, 13. It was early May. Now, was that the first round or second round?
Well, that was a lockout year, I believe.
That's what it was.
That's what pushed it back. I remember Game 7 was on May 13th. I remember that because that's my wife's birthday. So I was, like, hey, have fun, but we're at Game 7 tonight.
No, I know.
So that was in May of 2013, and that was, again, a scenario where I don't know if you were walking around when they were up 4-1 with 11 minutes to go. But I don't know if anyone was ever feeling the way they're feeling now, back in 13. And I guess a couple of years ago when they got through Tampa, there was obviously a lot of buzz.
Well, it's the same situation. You get to the first round.
But then it's
and then
3-0 so
round.
quick. You're like, oh, man, I can't believe it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, this is different because it's 2-0. I'm walking my kids to school. There's Leaf jerseys everywhere and signs and flags and people are buzzing about the game and what do you think tonight? What do you make of this? It's awesome, man. It's great.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, people are excited about it. And plus, it's beautiful. The weather's turned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go sit at a pub or, watch it. You got – I don't think it's watch parties right now, but it's more about your individual watch parties, right?
Yes.
Who you're watching it with, what you're doing, all of that type of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's tonight's pivotal. Swing game, honestly. 2-1 or 3-0, right? Like that's
huge, man.
It looks different. It should be a good buzz to it. And we'll see – how the Leafs feel. We'll see how, the Panthers respond and, what they've got in store, too, because I don't think they're a team that's going to roll over. So we'll see if they can, if the Leafs can try and combat anything that's thrown at them, put it that way.
Yeah, and, a lot of people pointing out, let's say the Panthers win tonight, then, who wins Game 4 likely wins the series. Not guaranteed because, again, the Leafs, even if you lose both in Florida, it's still 2-2 and you got home ice.
Well, you just shrunk the series. I disagree with whoever say it ends up 2-2 coming back. Yes, you've got momentum, but again, how is momentum? People always say momentum doesn't really shift from game to game. It's more about how you play. So, I think tonight is the most critical game of the series. It's 2-1 or 3 Cobb, and it'll really tell a lot about how this could potentially look. But a lot of different scenarios. That's why you kind of wait. The worst part about it, Hayes, is you got to wait an hour, and now you really got to wait 4 hours now for the game to be over to figure out what it's going to be, right? Again,
I'm not pressing fast forward because if you're a Leaf fan right now, this is something that you're kind of basking in. You're excited for the game as opposed to overly anxious about it. Like there will be anxiety and nerves naturally, but the fact, like if the Leafs were down 2-0, then people would be losing their minds here because this would quite literally be a must-win. You'd have to have this or it's over, and then it's deja vu from what we saw 2 years ago. Here, the shoe's on the other foot. Where I think a couple of years ago, flying down to Florida, you thought, okay, the Leafs, they can get back into this, win Game 3, and it's all good. Didn't happen, and the rest was history. The Leafs have a chance to do what Florida did 2 years ago and officially put their backs up against the wall. Here's Panthers radio analyst Bill Lindsay back on Overdrive. Bill, do you feel a role reversal here from what we saw 2 years ago? I mean, it was Florida that walked into Toronto and knocked them around and took a 2-0 lead back to Florida, and the rest was history. Do you sense that we could see something similar tonight where everyone thinks Panthers are a lock? Do you think the Leafs have a chance to get them tonight?
Yeah, of course Toronto does the way they've played. They've played exceptionally well the first couple of games. That is well within the realm of possibilities. The Panthers come out, they're going to have to play the best game of the series. They were pretty good in game number 2. They had a lot of opportunities, controlled their zone time, But again, it got obliterated off the rush with some bad decisions, and Nylander continues to be explosive. And Pacioretty, give him credit for changing his game around and just thumping everything in sight, now producing offensively. And Matthews has been able to take away Barkov, which is unheard of. And we'll see if Paul Maurice kind of maybe gets Barkov out there against that Nylander line as much as possible into ours and try and contain them and maybe free them up more offensively. But watching Austin Matthews play the 2 goals and still has a point a game, but the defensive side of Austin Matthews is what's really, really, really impressed me so far with the Leafs. It's a different Leaf team. Panthers need their best game to beat them.
So, Billy, you talked about the Leafs' strengths and what they're capable of doing here. They look a little different. Obviously, they've had success. What are you seeing from Florida? Is it as simple as, the goaltender needs to make a couple extra saves too? Because I don't think Bob's had his A game in the first 2 for sure.
Yeah, Noodles, that has to happen for sure. If you look back, the first game was not good at all from any aspect from Sergei Bobrovksy. Okay, in game number 2 until the 4th goal by Mitch Marner, which came at a critical time. He scored it, even it up 17 seconds later, and he comes stumbling across and not able to make that save. So Sergei Bobrovksy has to stand up. If the rest of the game, if you look through the analytics of that game, the Panthers had over 6.5 minutes of offensive zone possession time compared to around 250, I believe, for the Leafs. Slot chance, you didn't hit the net. You had slot chances, inner slot chances. You dominated in that category. So you had that part of your DNA into your game. It's just when it led to it, you could see the speed of the Leafs with bad reads in the middle of the ice, which the Panthers are normally great at, is control and speed. They got some bad reads, and the rushes killed them. And it comes back the other way. If they have to be able to control that speed through the neutral zone. If that is done, and you eliminate the 3-on-2s and the 2-on-1s and the quick strike ability of the Leafs, and you control the game like you did in the offensive end, those same kind of numbers, there's a good chance that you could come away with a victory. But the margin for error now becomes really slim as far as the goaltending goes, as far as how you play up front. With a 2-0 lead, this is a 99%er. If you look at it, with teams coming back, you fall into about a 1% category of being able to come back from 3-0. So this is a 99% game that the Panthers need to have. If they shore those things up, they have a possibility.
With Bill Lindsay, and you mentioned, maybe Maurice will look at the Nylander line as the one that you need to attack defensively to try to slow them down. Because, Barkov and Reinhart, they're both up for the Selke. It's such a brilliant defensive line. But with that in mind, if they go that route, everything you just said, Bill, about Austin Matthews is also very accurate. He and Barkov very similar in terms of just their details and how much they check and how strong. They're big guys. They're both monsters. But if that happens, if Maurice thinks, okay, I got to find a way to stop Nylander, would you anticipate Matthews, taking advantage of that? In other words, how much of the discussion around the Panthers is, Matthews is sleeping giant, so to speak, offensively right now?
Yeah, the way the third line's playing for us, Paul Maurice can call them. They're not our third line, but Marchand, Luos, Serena, and Lundell have, every time they touch the ice, they've been terrific. And Lundell and Luos, Serena, they think defense first, and they're really cognizant of that part of the game with Brad Marchand. He's one of the best defensive wingers in the history of the game, really understanding, but he also wants to push offensively. The way that they didn't roll on offensively, keeping the puck down in the zone, and sometimes a good offense is the best defense. Maybe there is a chance that you see that line matched up against Matthews more than we've seen, because that's been the best line for the Panthers. And if you're looking at it, it's a very well-structured defensive line with the understanding of what they have to do. Yes, Matthews can exploit anyone at any time, but those three players are really, really good across the board, and you touched on them. We'll see how the matchups play out, but that's going to be critical here in this game. I still believe that you're going to see that Forsling-Ekblad matchup as much as possible out there against Matthews, and Seth Jones and Mikkola will line up probably still going against that Nylander line.
Also, the Leafs have done something really good, Billy, as far as, they've changed their defensive structure as far as the guys they deploy back there now. You bring in Carlo, you bring in Tanev, you bring in Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So there's some big bodies who defend very well. They also block a lot of shots. In your experience, when you've got a team that is that dedicated to shot blocking, getting in the lanes, What do the Panthers have to do different, or what do any team that faces teams like that box out, try and build their defense from the inside out and block a lot of shots? What's the key there? Is it just getting shots through? Is it changing sides? What do you make of it?
I would spread out the D a little bit wider, so the shooting lanes become a little bit harder to contend. I would spread out my defensemen from blue line to blue line, those far cross ice passes, and then just trying to get it from there. But if you talked about that, Jamie, you're right, because the Panthers love those plays low to high, and get shots and get screens in front. And if you're not getting shots through, and this defensive core for the Leafs has been the biggest addition that I've seen from this team in the past. The ability, but also the 7 goals that they've combined for. And they're not only defending, but they're also contributing at the offensive end. But when you're seeing those type of plays, now you have to start to force the bank off the ball, maybe get down low, just find any other way and maybe cycle it in the slot. And also, if you're those defensemen that aren't getting pucks through, you have to start looking at the winger and noticing, okay, do I got a chance? Because the Panthers are really good with their F3, the third forward high. If I'm a defenseman, swing the third forward up high as much as possible. And now I tell my defensemen, start looking at gaps, start charging, looking down to get through the middle of that slot. That was the one change that I would maybe make, is that you need more rotation, not with the puck, but with your players and your defensemen in the offensive zone, so you can cause some confusion defensively.
With Bill Lindsay, NHL Network analyst, Florida Panthers analyst. Game 3 tonight right here on TSN Radio. Puck drop in about an hour. Game 1 was the Sam Bennett story here in Toronto. I mean, I know you're aware of it, Bill. It was something else, man. People were going nuts on Sam, and he's an Ontario guy. He's from a couple hours outside of the city. I know he's got family and friends that would be massive Leaf fans. And I don't know if that's the reason he played the way he played in Game 2, but he was not himself, man. He did not bring really anything to the table. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You can finish yours.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you think that comes to an end? Does it automatically the real Sam Bennett returns tonight, or do you think he was affected not only by Stolarz but by the reaction, in the city and the way everyone kind of freaked out on him after Game 1?
Yeah, I don't believe so. But Sam Bennett has to play that way. He's the one energizer up front that brings everyone into the fight with that kind of play, and it is a nasty style. And to shrug it off, I don't know if Paul Maurice had a conversation with him, but he has to play on the edge, and he has to go out there. And for my personal view, he was on the power play, taking the puck to the net. He tried to score a goal, and he was looking for the rebound down around and seeing where the puck was, and eventually spotted it. I don't even know if he was aware where Stolarz was at that situation. So the noise around it, but Sam Bennett isn't usually a player that gets affected by that kind of stuff very much, because it's happened a lot in the past. We had an incident last year with Marchand, one of our teammates here, where he drilled him in the head, and then there was noise around Boston for that, and it didn't affect him for the rest of that series. So maybe I would just chalk it up as that just wasn't his best game. But they need him to play with that kind of energy and that kind of fight, and the Panthers have to throw that around all game. They want this game in the trenches. You saw the middle of the ice kind of opened up in this series, and it has to be board battles consistently for 60 minutes if the Panthers are thinking of what they want to do against Toronto.
Billy, is there a few guys that you would circle on that roster and say, that guy needs more? We just talked about Bobrovksy. I didn't think out of the 9 goals he's allowed, I think 4 of them he would want back. They're not great goals in both games total. But is there a few other guys that you could circle and say, geez, he's not at his game, or either he looks banged up, or that type of stuff? Because we just talked about Bennett maybe not having his best game. Matthew Tkachuk has not been overly dominant or playing the way that he can. Sam Reinhart, Verhaeghe, those guys are difference makers and have been quite quiet.
Yes, they have. And, I'll go with Bobrovsky. I'm going up front, too. I'm going with Barkov, your captain. Okay, I'm looking at Barkov and Reinhart. You guys are goal scorers, some of the 2 best. You have to have, if you don't even score, but you have to be the one that forces the issue. You cannot be taken away and taken out of the game defensively. So those 2 can be ramped up. Evan Rodriguez, was a stud for us last year and had that hit and then got dropped down to the fourth line. But game number 1 for him, Evan Rodriguez, did not look like the same. He's got to skate better, got to move. And number 3 on that list that I'm looking for, that's been magical all season, had a down, magical for us every time he's been in the playoffs, is Carter Verhaeghe. And he'd come in and had a lot of good looks, good opportunities. Has to hit the net, has to be able to score for us. So Barkov and that second line, has to have more an impact up front. For the Panthers have to be able to put more pressure and score some goals from top players, yes. But from Bobrovsky out, the top guns for the Panthers have to be better.
Well, we'll see what comes of it. We're chugging towards, puck drop tonight. And, one of the storylines that I think Leaf fans are focused on and hoping for is that, it's tough for a team like Florida, who's played more hockey than anyone else in the last 2 years, to keep getting up off the mat. Is there any concern down there, Bill, that, it's just you're running out of fumes, that it's just been so many games, so tough. Now you've won your cup. And the Leafs are just so hungry, and they don't have anything. They don't have anything compared to what Florida's had. If that's the case, what would that look like tonight?
But they would look tired. It would look like they don't have energy. But if you see the pushback from the Panthers and they're skating and they're kind of going after this game, then it's going to be okay. I don't believe that's a problem. You can draw back into the first Stanley Cup run where we lost to Vegas in the first round. We're playing a historically great team in the Boston Bruins, and we are down 3-1. The odds of us coming back into that series and winning probably are minuscule at best. You end up winning that series in Game 7. There is a strength in that dressing room and a belief. We'll see what happens. That's where Toronto's trying to get to. We've been there. It's going to be an incredible game to watch because Toronto's trying to take away what we've had and get to a real serious situation for them. So I would expect for them to come out kind of just knowing with all the pressure that the Leafs have that they're going to put their best foot forward, and we'll see. If the Panthers are able to answer and play their best game of the series, then it's right back to square one and you're right back into the playoffs. So this is a monumental, huge game between these two teams. It's
going to be a blast. Enjoy it tonight, Bill. Thank you for doing this.
All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
There's Bill Lindsay of the NHL Network and the Panthers Radio Network. Listen, I remember chatting with people in Tampa, and again, I don't know how this is going to play out. We'll see. But a couple of years ago, the confidence around Tampa, and it was earned because it was like all they do is win. That's all you see them do. They went to 3 straight Cup finals. And I remember, being around the rink in 23 and talking with Tampa people, and they're like, oh, they'll figure this out. Nah, they're going to win. Like, because it was just natural. Like, that's just the way you thought of it, And you sense that with Panthers media, personnel, and, they'll figure it out. This is who they are. This is what they do. They always find a way to win. And that very well could be the case. And if they punch back and significantly punch back tonight, then the Leafs will be unnoticed. And shame on the Maple Leafs if they think the job's done, or that, hey, we got these guys and they don't have what it takes. That would be a very, very poor mistake. But I can't imagine the Leafs will think that way. I can't imagine Berube will allow them to.
No, they got to have a great game, and they have to have their best game. In everything, it's about, every game takes on its own life. So you've got to see how this one's going to unfold. Keep in mind there's been some lead changes and stuff, but it's. They may not have looked or felt like 1-goal games, but they have been. That's the weird part about it. It was game 1 was kind of a big lead, and then the injury, and then, Florida claws back kind of, but not really. And then, game 2 was some lead changes, but it, was a 1-goal game. So I don't think there would be any reason for it not to be a 1-goal game tonight.
That would be very compelling.
Like that,
yeah,
right?
I think the Leafs would take that. Right now, right? Like tied going into the third period tonight, you'll take that and see who's going to be a game breaker. So, we'll see. Joseph Woll in net, Sergei Bobrovksy for the Panthers. We'll get to our best bets a little bit later in the hour. And again, we've been saying it all day. The weather's been nice. It's sunny.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a Melon Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This playoff season, Boston Pizza is planning the parade and has a new all-star playoff menu for you to enjoy. For pizza, pints, and puck drops, visit your local Boston Pizza today. Best bets later in the hour. Dear Hayesy-B coming up. We're still teeing up the game. Again, it's about 40 minutes away from the pregame, 45, 50 minutes away from puck drop right here on TSN 1050. Overdrive continues on TSN2 and the TSN app. All right, Dear Hayesy-B coming up here in a moment. The O-Dog's off doing panel work, so I guess that means I have to read stuff.
Yeah.
I don't love doing that. Generally, the O-Dog is the one that kind of runs the whole operation here, but we'll do our best. We'll get to that momentarily.
Yep.
I feel like Tom Fitzgerald, I don't know if you saw the presser today, Jersey,
Yeah.
Cleaning out the lockers and talking about stuff, and it's almost like, I don't know if it's a Dear Hayesy-B, but I have a brother that plays in Vancouver. It's like Jack Hughes was going to send him Dear Hayesy-B because, Fitzgerald knew what was coming because when Jim Rutherford and the Canucks did their presser at the end of the year, Rutherford was giving us gold, man.
Yes.
And talking about Quinn Hughes and his future and how he's mentioned that he wants to play with his brothers. So either he goes to Jersey or we find a way to get his brothers here. And obviously that would have rung out throughout the league. And I'm sure Tom Fitzgerald, who's been in the league for a long time as a player, now executive,
Right.
probably like, really? Okay. Well, that question's coming my way, whenever I get up to the podium. And he was asked about the Hughes brothers today. Do you want to hear how
Yes.
this kind of went down with Tom Fitzgerald, the GM of the New Jersey Devils? Sorry, let's see how this one played out.
Well, I'm not going to speculate on a comment of another team's player. You'd have to ask Jim, really, about the comment. For me, we're going to evaluate our own team, where we need to upgrade in some things. And again, I can't comment on another player.
So Rutherford had no problem commenting on other players. I like it. It was like, you'd have to ask Jim. I mean, Jim, I'm sure will tell you. Weird, though, seeing Sheldon Keefe up there, man.
Yeah.
And, how many times
they fired his whole staff, right?
Yeah.
Except for him.
Like, he just got there. Been there a year. He has been through that so many times. Round one, deflated, you get beat. And they got beat.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say easily, but like Carolina, it was you lose in 5, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
That's tough. And, Sheldon, I feel for him up there because now he's out, and guess what he's watching? The Leafs in the second round and winning games. And I'm sure he thought he'd be the one that would be doing that, but it's not.
Well,
it's
he's probably sitting there going, okay, where was Chris Tanev for me?
That is
valid.
valid.
You got me, Jerry. What was the right shot? Jerry Lilligren, and I was
you had Timothy Lilligren. You had Justin Hall, who they protected, I believe, in the Seattle expansion draft.
Different teams. I get it. Craig Berube's been certainly a difference maker, absolutely, but it's also a different roster, right? Like they had Ilya Samsonov, and now you got Stolars and Wall. Like it's different, right?
There's no question.
Sheldon's probably going, okay, well, yeah, that's a different team than when I was there, as far as some of the guys around the.
So who do you think you would direct that at?
Well, I think you direct that
at Dubas.
Yeah, okay. Dubas or Shanny.
I would. Well, that's what I was going to say. Wouldn't Shanahan have some of the responsibility to be like, hey, this isn't working, what we keep doing here? And obviously, Tree Living either sold him on it, or he was like, fine, I got to change this clearly, and we need someone else that's going to do it.
Right.
Because that has been the most noticeable change, that Sheldon Keefe would absolutely be within his own right to say, hey, guys, you brought in Tanev, Ekman-Larsson, and Carlo in the last 12 months. I felt pretty good about beating the Bruins last year if those 3 players are on my team. I think they would have beaten the Bruins last year.
Well, yeah, I mean,
for sure. Now, Carlo was playing for the Bruins, so it probably isn't really a hypothetical that lands, but you know what I mean.
Well, I know what you mean, and they didn't have, their players were different, put it that way. Yes, the core was still the same, but there was a lot of different players on the roster that Sheldon had to go to or went to that, Chief has the luxury of going to. Like just, Pacioretty comes in and is a difference maker. Like they find that's kind of found money by Brad Treliving. They tried with Nick Foligno. They tried with Bertuzzi, guys like that.
Thornton and
like it just
they tried it all. You're right. Even Steven Lorentz has been a mainstay on that fourth line all year.
Right.
And he was available. Any team in the league, you paid that guy $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.5 million, you could have had him.
I remember, he didn't play in the finals, I don't think, against Edmonton. He was a healthy scratch, right? I remember seeing him at a restaurant after the game, whatever game that was, Game 4. He was sitting there with his family. There was, that was a guy that went through the experience, but I don't think he got to. Now, I'd have to double check. He might have played some final games, but I believe he was a healthy scratch. That they had the guy who went to Calgary there, the little the Lamborghini.
Yeah, Lomberg. Ryan Lomberg was out there. And they had Tarasenko. They had Oposo.
Nick Cousins,
guys
they had
like
that.
A bunch of depth guys. You're right.
Yeah.
That was a luxury that team had, the Panthers had last year.
Yeah.
All right, best bets coming up a little bit later in the hour. Let's fire up Dear Hayesy-B.
Yes.
People send in a tweet. They write us for our professional advice on life things. Dear Hayesy-B, every morning my boiler has a gas leak. My wife thinks it's the baby.
Dear Hayesy-B.
If you want to come to Hayesy-B, I need honesty from you.
Hazy, you got dumped a lot. Tell him.
Grown adults with birthdays, it's asinine.
All right, Dear Hayesy-B, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This playoff season, Boston Pizza is planning the parade and has a new all-star playoff menu for you to enjoy. For pizza, pints, and puck drops, visit your local Boston Pizza today. All right, this is a big one because, as we know, it's Mother's Day on Sunday, right? Yeah. And Austin wrote in, and he is dealing with something that I am familiar with. So Mother's Day on Sunday, my wife's birthday on Tuesday. So I get hit every year with a double whammy quick. It's a quick hitter. And Austin from Toronto writing in, Dear Hayesy-B, flying down tomorrow for Game 4 on Sunday and taking my mom as her birthday and Mother's Day fall on the same day this year.
Nice.
She can definitely hold her own when it comes to the sauce and plans to floor it on Sunday, starting with brunch, hitting the beach for a little bit, drinks before the game. Do I have any right to make sure she paces herself, and can I say anything if it may seem to be going off the rails, even though it's her big day? Austin from Toronto. Go ahead, Noodles.
I think you have to say something, or at least be there part of the process and make sure she's fine, because you want to make it to the game and you want to enjoy yourself. You don't want to be babysitting, for lack of better words, somebody who's had a tough day and it can't roll into the night if she's, passed out or you know what I mean?
You cannot have that happen.
No, you can't. You're trying to go to the game and enjoy yourself, but if you have too big of a party during the day and can't make it, you're going to be watching it on TV from the hotel room instead of going to the game. So I think there is a form of finding that middle ground. Enjoy yourself, but make sure that it doesn't get off the rails where you can actually last the whole day and night.
Yeah, totally reasonable, because this isn't happening in Toronto. Right? If you had tickets to the game, let's say Game 4 was in Toronto, that would still be reasonable to say, hey, we got to get to the game, but you can find someone else to step in, right? If by 2 o'clock brunch has gotten a little bit carried away and the mimosas are flying and it's like, okay, mom's not going to make it, I'm going to call dad and he's coming down, or whatever it is. Buddy, you can't do that in Florida.
No.
That's not. There's no going to the bullpen when you're on the road. This is a road game.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
flew 3 hours to get down there. So the priority is to make it to the game. I'm presuming they're both diehard Leaf fans, and they're really excited. And either the Leafs are going to have a chance to win the series or go up 3-1 in the series.
Right.
That's a great question. Which one would you prefer to be at, Game 3 or Game 4? I don't think you can really choose wrong.
Right.
But I get it. We've all been there. We've all done it. There's nothing like landing in Florida and being like, all right, we're here. It's going to be so hot. In May, it is scorching. That's another thing you got to prepare yourself for. It has not been summer heat here in Toronto.
Right.
If you go from 0 to 60 where you're layering up and you got jackets and then all of a sudden it's 35 degrees and feels like 40 with the humidity. Forget the drinks, dude.
Yeah.
You just may not survive that.
Now you're in one, exactly.
You got to be careful. So, yes, you're totally within your right to say maybe a drink over brunch, maybe you go somewhere for an early dinner, have a drink there, but you got to make sure you and your mom are walking inside that rink. Get to the rink early. That's something I don't mind doing in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I'll
pace
admit.
yourself and go there.
Yeah, during the regular season, I don't really have interest. I try to walk in almost as puck drops. It's different. I'm bringing my kids down or something. We'll go down early. But I think for the playoffs, it's great. If you can get down there early, pick up on the atmosphere, there'll be a great buzz. And what Americans do really well is they create parties at these sporting events.
Yes.
Right? Like they rock it. It'll be buzzing outside that rink.
Yeah, the parking lot will have music. It'll have people gathering. It'll be tailgating, all of that type of stuff. And you can roll around. You know, these aren't the places, I believe, that aren't egregious if you're wearing the other team's jersey. I don't think nobody's going to sucker you or anything like that.
I don't think you have to worry about that necessarily in Florida, but it is Florida.
Yeah, you never know.
There's a chance for a Florida man to show up and do something stupid.
Exactly, there is.
All right, Bill tweeting in at OverDrive 1050. Dear Hayesy-B, I have a neighbor that goes outside and honks his trunk horn for every Leafs win this playoffs. But as they get further in, the honks have turned into every Leaf goal and becomes more and more aggressive. I originally encouraged him at the start, but now I want nothing to do with this. How do I distance myself, as it's creating quite a scene in the neighborhood? Well, I don't think it's about distancing. It's about you getting to your neighbor and saying, I made a massive mistake. And I think it's understandable after a win. Go ahead. It's crazy behavior, but everyone's excited the Leafs are winning. They've scored 9 goals in 2 games. You can't go outside and fire off 9 honks plus 2 for the win. That's 11 honks.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's on a Monday and a Wednesday. People have to go to work. Kids are going to school. Friday night, I guess have fun. Honk away. Sunday night, if it goes to triple OT and this guy's laying on the horn, you cannot endorse that kind of behavior. You can't have it.
I don't know.
You would hate this kind of stuff because you would look at fans like they're crazy. And
that is craziness. But, I mean, I understand the passion. I just
love the passion.
At what point does the passion cross over into,
bylaws?
Bylaws and craziness where it's like, okay, I get you, but enough with the horn type of thing. Like that, it is. I think if you're close enough with that person, be like, knock it off, give it for the win, but not every goal. Like, every goal is a bit aggressive.
Every goal's insane. Like the Leafs could score 3 goals in 3 minutes tonight. The guy's going to run outside 3 times in 3 minutes and lay on the horn.
What does he do? Like pause the game and run out? Like that's the other thing. You go.
I could picture
PBR
this guy. I
it.
know
like,
this guy. This is a Joe from the bridge move. Like this, and now here's the problem. Here's the chess game that this guy's playing with his own mind. He believes he's a part of the whole mojo and why the Leafs are rolling now, right?
Yeah.
So if you stop laying on the horn, it's Panthers in 6, So now he's psyched himself into this belief
that the team needs it. The team needs him.
That he probably this is probably happening in Georgetown or something or Bowmanville, and yet the Leafs down in South Florida, they need this guy to be hammering on his F-150. Before
that's
they
the
can
other
officially
thing.
close
What
the
kind of
game
horn
out.
is it too? Is it
It's
like
probably so obnoxious?
Yeah, loud horn or
it is.
Yeah.
Any guy doing the truck horn thing, it's going to get your attention. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I love the passion. I love it gets back to what we were talking about earlier this hour. Like there really is there's a sense of excitement, and there should be. You wait for it for 12 months. In past years, it's been disappointing when they lost Game 7 against Boston. It's so deflating, and you think, wow, what are they going to do here? Well, what they did was they fired Sheldon Keefe, hired Craig Berube. Yeah. They signed Chris Tanev. They signed Ekman Larson. They signed Steven Lorentz. They made those deals at the deadline, bringing in Carlo, bringing in Lawton. And as a result, it has led to, obviously, Max Pacioretty being a part of that as well. It's led to them putting a team together here that's really mixing well. And, I think if you're a Leaf fan, you've got a lot of reasons to be confident, but also proud of the team. And listen, the team has done it to themselves in the past. right? Losing games and deflating manner and, leaving the playoffs in the first round. But like we always say, they play the games. And if they win, tire pumping. If you lose, you're going to be critical. But right now, there's been a lot of tire pumping.
Exactly. You talk about what's in front of us, and they got an opportunity tonight. And, it's puck drop and whatever. It's 30 minutes from now. But everybody's, feeling good. And, it's nice. Like, your fans made it down there to Florida. Like, that building is, I don't know if you've ever been in it. It's a pretty decent building, and it's, it's got a good atmosphere there. Yes, for years it was it was quieter, right? They didn't have the sold out every night, but the last couple of years obviously is because the team has been good. But, it's a big challenge tonight. But, here people are passionate about it. Just knock it off with honking actually do it. Just don't do it in
Just don't do it around us. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is very reasonable. I haven't noticed that happening here. In my neighborhood, I've heard horns being honked. Like, thing is, when I'm down at the game, when I'm in the building, I don't get out of there for an hour and a half. By the time I leave, everything's cleared out. It's a weird experience. It's a really weird experience. I remember it vividly with the Raptors too. When they beat Milwaukee, Game 6, that was at home, and I was in the building and I was there doing post-game stuff. And I left like an hour and a half later, fully expecting it to be insane out on the streets of Toronto, and it had cleared. Everyone was gone. Everyone was probably in the bars by then, right. But that's always an eerie experience for me. Like on Monday night when I left that building, and it was a late game. Like I left at like midnight. It's a Monday, so I understand people are going to work. There was nothing going on.
Quiet,
it's quiet, man. It's weird walking around downtown on a Monday night. But tonight's different because even though they're not at home, it's a Friday night, and a lot of people are going to be out at the bars and everything. It's going to be great for the city. Like the buzz around the city is going to be phenomenal tonight. And again, the Jays are in Seattle, and I'm just seeing Doogie send something over here in terms of what are we hearing here on Jimenez? What did you just write? Oh, Keegan Matheson tweeting out, Blue Jays have placed Andreas Jimenez on the IL with a right quad strain, retroactive to May 8th. All right, so there's Jimenez on the IL. Okay, there you go.
Well, that's not good.
No, it's not ideal, although his bat is really, really cooled down. But defensively, Gold Glove, and he's the guy they need. They don't have a lot of depth, man. They don't have a lot of depth. So Jimenez, he's on the IL again, retroactive to May 8th.
And got a big one against Seattle.
Big one against Seattle here. Yes, you got Gosman on the mound up against Castillo. You got to start winning series, man. Like it's you got a lot of time left if you win 2 out of 3.
Exactly.
But if you keep dropping 2 out of 3, then time comes to an end quickly. By the end of June, you could be looking at it saying it's just not going to work.
Yeah, 10 games back or something like that. It's
too big of a climb, man. I don't care how watered down the American League is. If you're way back of the hunt, you're proving you're not good enough to stay in it, let alone win it. All right, best bets coming up. Same game parlay on the game tonight. Leafs, Panthers, Game 3 right here on TSN Radio. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Austin Matthews, 3+ shots on goal tonight. William Nylander, 3+ shots on goal tonight. Mitch Marner with 1+ points. Sam Reinhart, 1+ point tonight. That parlay paying plus 422. I love it. Yes, I do think Reinhart, Barkov get off the snide tonight. I think they get cooking. I know Barkov had a power play goal the other night. But I look to Reinhart to bring something to the table tonight for sure. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every Stanley Cup playoff game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19+, physically located in Ontario. Looks like the Panthers might be replacing their whole fourth line tonight.
Yeah, I saw that. And Hilda backing up.
Yeah, what is that all about?
I don't know. Matt Murray, who knows?
Like Murray's, I'm sure he's on the trip. But
yes, but I don't know. It just
he pulls something on the flight.
Who knows? Yeah, I'm not even going to speculate. But
I don't know. I'm with you though. That storyline died down because Wall got through Game 2 and all that, but it's still a reality. You're a Joseph Wall injury away from Dennis Hilda-B.
Never know.
Yeah, that's the.
I hope I
don't know. Like Matt Murray, to me, with more experience and all that, I would have him backing up the whole time.
All day.
Plus, he actually played. Not actually, he played well for the Marlies when he was down there this year. So
I think they'd have more confidence in him in there than Hilda-B. Personally, let's hope it doesn't get to that point.
Agreed. Let's hope it's a moot point. But in the end, I could see Maurice, he's looking for something different, that fourth line. Although, Samoskevich had one of the best chances of the night. Wall got a great save, a great right toe save on it. So, I don't know. That's a weird one. But I think they're, obviously they're looking for something. Florida looking for a spark. So,
yeah. I don't recall ever hearing that a full line just got replaced. And obviously there's no salary cap now, so you could do it. Right?
Yeah.
Like you have guys, you got guys available for you.
If you go back to last game's game sheet and you look at the rosters, the scratches, like the Leafs have 22 scratches. Florida has like 6. It's the guys that would be with their team, and it's not. But the Leafs have their whole AHL team up. Like
the Marlies are out, so they're getting the experience.
Exactly. So the Marlies are traveling, so it's 2 teams. I wonder if they've had two planes. You never know with the Leafs.
With the Leafs, they probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably did. Although that seems unnecessary to bring 20 guys down there.
Well, there
I hear you, but that's because they're on the playoff roster, I guess.
Yeah. But it literally there's like 20 people on their roster.
All right, maybe they're all down
tonight.
there. That'd be pretty sweet. You're a Black Ace and you're like 17th in line to make the lineup. You're just partying down there.
Exactly.
Yeah, go down, bag skate in the morning, look good at the game, and have a great time.
Well, yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
No.
All right, so Game 3 coming up right here on TSN Radio. Joe Bowen, Jimmy Ralph with the call, the Tap Man, Stewie. They're going to have everything covered, pregame, postgame, everything in between.
Yeah.
And, man, it's going to be a pivotal weekend because by the time we're back on Friday, man, anything, it could be completely different.
Well, there's
3 different
outcomes,
avenues here.
Exactly. Yep. You've got 2-2, you've got 3-1 or a sweep. But you've got on Monday,
2 out of 3 are positive. The other one is, Monday will be different if Florida holds on to home ice.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how it goes. But Monday we'll know a lot more 3 days from now or 2.5 days from now.
We sure will. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.